Okay, so in the previous video, I talked about developing a few techniques or habits, if you will, or purposeful habits of how, if you had to deal with somebody accosting you, how you would get that initial strike off, how you would accelerate to violence. One of the other things that you're going to have to do too is, because you don't know how long you may have to do it, you have to also practice and get enough repetitions in practicing it, not only to develop the muscle memory, but also to develop the ability that if you have to go to, and you got to do it under duress, that you want to feel that adrenaline rush, you want to feel that inside your body, because you got to learn to control that, because it's going to show up whether you like it or not. So the time to start at least experiencing what it's like to do something under adrenaline, to do something under a heightened state of arousal, is in training. This is the reason why in the military we do progressive desensitization training. Why do we do progressive desensitization training? It's because the first time you're experiencing bullets whizzing over your head, you don't want it to be in combat where you're like, oh my God, what's that? You want to have had people to already had experienced it on some level. I mean, we don't get crazy with it, but to understand what it's like, but also to understand that as long as you're using the techniques we teach you, you're going to be safe and you're not going to get your head taken off. So it's the same thing in self-defense. I was watching a video the other day, and the guy was teaching on shadow boxing. He was a martial arts guy, MMA guy, but he made a great point, and I want to really build on what he said. When I'm practicing my entry moves, or whether I'm practicing how I would get in on someone, mentally, I put myself in that state of, okay, I'm dealing with somebody who's a real problem, and I got like this much time to make a decision and strike with all my might. And the reason I do that is I want to bring up that arousal in myself. I want myself to feel that and experience it. I want to move in a way as if I really have somebody standing in front of me that I got to hit with all my might, with all the ruthlessness necessary. A big part of the ruthless intent training that I do in Warrior Flow is to train people that if you have to go, to be able to summon the pain, hate, and discontent, and to strike with utter ruthlessness. But if you don't try to bring that up, if you don't try to engender that quality in yourself, the time to do it is not necessarily when you're in the middle of the situation. Too many people, and you see this all the time, you ask the average guy if he thinks he can fight. And he'll tell you, oh yeah, you have no idea, dude, when I'm under adrenaline, how I can really go. Okay, here's the truth, and I've said it in other videos, but I'll keep saying it, till I'm blue in the face. And that is, whatever you're doing now under adrenaline, you're going to do the same stupid thing, only with more energy, more effort, and more speed. That's what you're going to do. You're going to do the same dumb thing. And the reason is your muscles don't care about your adrenaline. They really don't. You either develop the neuromuscular coordination to do it, or you can't do it. It's just that simple. It's like thinking, just because I watch TV and watch, some gymnast doing backflips, I can go out because, oh yeah, you really, under adrenaline, I'll go out and do backflips. No, it's just stupid, okay? So it's the same thing. So as you're practicing kind of shadow boxing, one of the things I like to do is, as I'm practicing these things, is in my mind, I'm thinking about getting off the dime, so to speak, and laying wood on people and putting foot to ass and really blasting people in the neck, blasting people with a palm strike, or whatever the case may be. The other thing you want to practice as you're building up, and like I said, I'm going to show some stuff later on in the What If series of demonstrations of how I do these things dealing with a person, so that you can learn how to practice this stuff on you. It's not rocket science, but you got to practice it. And that is pushing myself also to a state of exhaustion. And this is hard for a lot of folks because of the fact that, and you see this mostly, not so much in the sport or MMA or sportive type of arts, but you see this a lot in the self-defense arena, where people think that, because they got the mystical, throat strike or eye strike that they've practiced a million times, that it's always going to work on somebody, especially you get some person, you hear stories from cops of, they've been smoking funny looking cigarettes and they get hit in the eye and now they're really pissed off. So you have to have some redundancy built in, and you have to have some explosiveness and endurance built in. So one of the things you want to practice, once you get good at the different techniques, once you get kind of good at knowing how to move your hands and accelerate the violence, you want to practice doing those same movements, whether you're throwing punches, strikes of any kind, you want to practice where you're moving to the point of exhaustion. You don't have to do it long, but you want to move, get up about full speed. And the reason you want to move to that point of exhaustion is to start training your brain and training your body to recognize what it's like to move in that state when you're feeling tired. You know, the great Vince Lombardi said it best that, you know, fatigue makes a coward out of us all. And it's true. And let's face it, when you're tired, there's a lot of stuff you don't want to do, but you, in a real situation, you may get tired. You have to focus through that. And so one of the things I recommend people do is, you know, I'll just do a quick demonstration is, I may practice, you know, throwing some punches, you know, straight punches, whatever. And then what I do is I start adding speed, and then I get to the point where I can throw as many straight punches or uppercuts as fast as I can for short bursts. And I'll do it in a series of sets, and I'll just do it off and on until I reach that point where I feel myself a little bit out of breath, where I feel my muscles pump, where I feel my hands are almost shaking, so that my brain gets used to being able to function, or my body is used to, as I was able to function in that state for those brief moments. Even though real fights, you know, last seconds, I want to be able, in my own training, to be able to move like that for a good 15 to 30 seconds if I have to, or at least be able to step and hit and strike with power for a good 15 to 30 seconds, maybe longer. I use 15 to 30 seconds as kind of the barometer, because that's really a long time in a real fight when you're actually engaging with people. So you want to practice these things. So one of the things I do also is this, say I'm doing uppercuts. I'll start off slow like this. Then I'll start getting the hips and shoulders a little more involved. And then I'll start throwing as many uppercuts as I can, as fast as I can, really short things. Feeling the hips and shoulders working till I get a little bit out of breath, then I relax, and then I start and I do it again. And then I may do some straight punches, and I'll start off nice and easy. And then I'll add the speed, and I'll do it a couple times. And I'll keep doing that until I get a little out of breath, because I want to feel what that feels like. I want to experience it, because if I have to move in a real situation on people, I want to be able to explode and accelerate the violence like that. And when I start showing some of the demonstrations of how this stuff applies, it'll make a lot more sense of why I do that. But it comes down to the thing is as I was Grandmaster Carey used to say, if you want to be able to do the thing you want to be able to do, you got to practice doing those things. You got to build those purposeful habits in. Too many people are expecting magic in the martial arts, and there really is no magic. If you want to be able to do something, you got to practice it. There's no way around that.